Hi guys, we are going to talk about multiple choice questions because that's what you're going to be doing a little bit of work with. So you can see here that this question is actually from the Odyssey. Now it's from a slightly different translation of the Odyssey. So Ulysses is what the Romans called him, and so translations that work off of the Roman version will call him Ulysses, but it's the same guy. As Ulysses returns in disguise, he and his dog, Argos, recognize one another. After Argos sees his master return, he dies. This scene reinforces what prominent theme of the Odyssey. First of all, on these questions, if there is something that you don't know, you have to make sure that you go and you look it up, because these questions are going to be tough enough that you are going to need to make sure that you are really focusing. But here for a sec, let's assume that you know that prominent means it really stands out. Let's talk about a student named Jazz. Jazz is just the average student. See how I did that? J-A-S. Now, how does Jazz answer questions? Jazz starts from the top and he works his way down. And the minute he finds something that he thinks looks right, he goes, yep, that's it. And he doesn't even read the rest. And you can generally figure out how to do multiple choice questions by doing the opposite of anything Jazz does. When you are talking about standardized tests, like you're going into SATs or ACTs or APs, they know what Jazz is likely to do. In fact, they hire psychologists to try and write really trappy questions that will trip you up. And so when we're doing tough multiple choice questions, we're not talking about the kind of teacher tests you get where you know the answers. We're talking about things that you have to really think about. There are a number of strategies that we can pull out. Jazz always reads from the top down. And what that means is if you have the correct answer in the B spot, and let's say that this test writer has an absolutely glorious distractor, something that they know is going to really confuse this kid and get this kid to pick the wrong answer. Well, because Jazz reads from the top down, if the test writer chooses to put that nasty distractor down here, Jazz is never going to see it, because the minute Jazz sees the right answer, Jazz is going to grab it. And what that means is if test writers have a particularly nasty distractor, something that's likely to waste a lot of your time or really confuse you, test writers know they have to put it in front of the actual answer to get Jazz to read it. So, how do we use that knowledge to our benefit? Well, very simple. We always work questions from the bottom up. So we are never going to start by looking at A. We are always going to start by looking at D. So, first answer, appearances can be deceiving. Well, maybe, because this is about appearance and whether you recognize there is a disguise. So here's the next general rule I'm going to tell you. Move from the bottom up is rule number 1. And rule number 2 is take out the trash. And that means the first time through, you are not looking for a right answer at all. You are looking to eliminate any answers that are trash. That's not trash, because we are talking about appearances. We are talking about others are deceived. So it's not trash. Do not eliminate too quickly. Okay, the next one. Humans falsely believe they are stronger than the natural world. What the heck does that have to do with the dog? So that one, I'm going to kill it. It's trash. Love is blind. What? Who's blind? Nobody's blind. No. And true loyalty withstands the test of time. Well, that's another possibility as well. Now, generally, you are going to get down to a couple of options. So once you take out the trash, now and only now are you going to look at which answer is best. So appearances can be deceiving or true loyalty withstands the test of time. Well, the problem here is that Argos and Odysseus, or Ulysses, were not deceived at all. So, yeah, they're in. Ulysses is disguised, so he's deceiving others, but he doesn't deceive the dog. So, the relationship between Ulysses and the dog is not one of deception. And that takes us to rule number 3. If part is wrong, it's all wrong. So the correct answer here would be A. So let's take a look at another one. Okay, the suitors encourage Iris to fight the beggar. The text states, as he prepares to fight, Ulysses girded his old rags about his loins, thus baring his stalwart thighs, his broad chest and shoulders, and his mighty arms. But Minerva, also known as Athena, came up to him and made his limbs even stronger still. The suitors were beyond measure astonished, and one would turn toward his neighbor, saying, the stranger has brought such a thigh out of his old rags that there will soon be nothing left of Iris. Okay, so rule number 1, we are going to read from the bottom up. Do make sure you're paying attention. We're actually looking for 2. Rule number 2. What is it? Yep, take out the trash. So let's move from the bottom up, looking to take out the trash. They are inattentive to signs. Well, we've got Minerva there, so maybe. He's girding his rags about his loins, so he's giving signs that he has fought before, that he knows how to quickly gather up his clothing. Doesn't feel great, but okay, well, it's not trash. We only eliminate trash. Disregard for guests. Yeah, they are definitely disregarding guests here. Yes. Unconcerned for fellow suitors. Oh, wait a minute. Remember what we said about if part is wrong, all is wrong? They are definitely unconcerned, yes. But they are unconcerned about these poor people. The 2 beggars, not the fellow suitors. So this is wrong, and if this is wrong, that means that whole thing is trash. And they enjoy physical fights. Well, when other people are fighting, sure they do. So that leaves us with 3 answers. Now, here is the next rule, because you've done the work from the bottom up, you've done the take out the trash, you've done the if part is wrong, all is wrong. And now here is the next one, and it is an unfortunate truth. On these tests, there are best answers, not right answers. All 3 of these are, in fact, negative characteristics that this particular scene underscores. Yeah, sucks, doesn't it? But that means we have to figure out which 2 of these are best. Now, can we all agree that disregard for guests, that's going to be definitely one of our keepers. And that means enjoyment of physical fights and inattention to signs. One of those is better than the other. Now, when you are looking for what is better or what is worse, a lot of times what you have to look for is how specific a question is and how specific an answer is. So, if they're asking you a very broad question, well, you would expect a very broad answer. If they are asking you a very narrow question, you would expect a very narrow answer. I want you to take a look at A, because the broad or narrow rule will actually tell you whether that is a good answer or a bad one. So A says they enjoy physical fights. So it's not as broad as saying, hey, they enjoy fights. They're narrowing it down a little bit and saying, hey, they enjoy physical fights. Is it physical fights they enjoy? Are they getting in there with fists? No, they enjoy watching other people physically fight. So there is enjoyment of others' physical fights, not their own. Because if you're going to talk about they enjoy physical fights, well, they enjoy this subset of physical fights, which is watching other people, but this subset of physical fights, which is them fighting for themselves, they hate fighting for themselves. So the correct answer here would be C and D. So, you ready to take a look at another one? Okay, let's try this one. After Circe explains the challenge of Scylla and Charybdis, Ulysses asks, "Is there no way," said I, "of escaping Charybdis and at the same time keeping Scylla off when she is trying to harm my men?" "You daredevil," replied the goddess, "you are always wanting to fight somebody or something. You will not let yourself be beaten even by the immortals." Okay, so we're going to start the exact same way, and that is we're going to go to the bottom, we're going to work our way up. As we go from the bottom and work our way up, we are going to take out the trash. But I want you to take a look at something here. That he is guileless but brave, rash and haughty, bold and cunning, selfless but scared. Now, this is coming into a new thing that you need to be aware of when you are doing really difficult tests. We talked very early in the semester about the fact that the short-term memory, the part of your memory where you think, is limited to 5 to 7 pieces of information at a time. And when you're doing something hard, you're more on the 4 to 5 side than you are on the 7 side. And here is where you get into trouble with multiple choice. If you're not taking out the trash, if you are trying to consider all 4 of your answer choices at once, and you're trying to think of, oh, which of these are better, you're trying to think of, well, that 4 to 5 things all at once. So your entire short-term memory, your entire working brain is completely filled up with just thinking about what the answer choices are. And that makes it harder for you to pick which is right. So the work from the bottom method and the take out the trash method, what you're really doing is you're saying, okay, I'm going to look at just one item, D. Is it trash? Yes. Well, then I'm just going to eliminate it off the top. And so what you're doing is you're focusing yourself in to looking at one thing at a time until you can narrow down your answer choices. So you are literally trying to make better use of your short-term memory. But if you look at the answer choices in this particular question, you will see that you have a problem. To answer this question correctly, you have to think about the question, and then you have to think about, okay, we're thinking about the question, one thing, and then 2 things, and 3 things, and 4 things, and 5 things, and 6 things, and 7 things, and 8 things, and 9 things, and then we have to keep track of which are opposites and which are sames. We've already exceeded our brain's ability to sort of keep track of information in our head. And test writers know that limitation, and they are hoping that you are going to fall for that particular trap. So what we're going to do is we're going to work from the bottom. We are going to take out the trash, but to keep myself from getting overwhelmed, I am only going to look at one thing at a time. And in this case, I'm starting with the last half. Doesn't actually matter. I'm just starting with the last half. So, what does this show you about Odysseus or Ulysses? Does it show he's brave? Yes. Haughty? Yeah, a little bit. Cunning? Maybe, yeah. Scared? No. Well, what was our other strategy that we learned? If part is wrong, all is wrong. Now, normally, this is where you would have to now try to guess. You would have to say, okay, I've taken out the trash. I have to look at what's left, and I have to pick my best answer. But those answers actually have two parts. So I now get to go through, and I get to check it again. So, starting from the bottom, that he is guileless. Well, to have guile means to be sly and kind of tricky, and absolutely Ulysses is that, but he is guileless, meaning he's not tricky at all. Well, he's trying to trick the gods, trying to trick Scylla, so that is wrong. But what was our rule? If part is wrong, all is wrong. That he is rash, meaning he acts too quickly. Yeah, a little bit. That he is bold. Yeah, a little bit. Which means we are now back to the situation we were in before. And that is we do have two correct answers. And the question is, which is best? So we've got, in each case, we've got and. So, but would suggest we were looking for something different, but we have and, so we're going similarities. And so we have 4 words here. Are there any words that are particularly strong? Well, yeah, it's definitely he's showing bold. And definitely this is kind of rash in that he is trying to find a way to fight or challenge Scylla. Okay. Now, those words are both equally good, which means the difference between which is the best answer is going to come, which does this particular passage really show the most of, cunning or haughtiness? Well, she's suggesting, okay, you're not going to be beaten even by the immortals. So that might be that she's saying it. But if you really look at it, is there no way of escaping and keeping Scylla off my men? He is asking a goddess this. He is cunning enough to know who is likely to have answers. So she may be saying, oh, you naughty boy, you're a little haughty. But there is more evidence, and the evidence directly from him, that he's being cunning. So there's more cunning than there is haughtiness. So the correct answer is B. Now, that's going to take us to the next idea you have to keep in mind. If you have questions that are at this level, things that are ACT, SAT level questions, you are not ever going to get them all right. In fact, to be perfectly average on these kinds of national tests, you would have to get 50% right. That's it. If you have 50% right on an ACT or an SAT test, you will be absolutely average. That means you can't beat up on yourself every time you miss a question. These questions are tough. There's not one right answer. There's never going to be an easy answer. And that's why you have to use the strategies. Okay? So, give it a try, and I'll see you soon.